Genres can be subversive. They are meant to categorize and label all forms of art. This is an easy way to describe something like a song without breaking it down too far. Enter Sandman is a heavy metal song. Real simple. Without that heavy metal genre label, describing it might be a little bit tougher. Enter Sandman is a song. It's in 4/4. It's in the key of E minor. It's 123 beats per minute. It's played with guitars, bass, and drums. The guitars have distortion, etc. Really helpful stuff. But sometimes genres can be bogged down in minutia. Minutia so overly specific that genre loses its meaning. Calling a black metal band is fine, but further delineating bands into subgenres like raw black metal, melodic black metal, blackened death metal, gothic black metal, or atmospheric twilight metal is really silly. We eventually get to a spot where these genres become meaningless. It's not helpful at all. Today we are looking at a game that I have heard called an RPG 1,000 times throughout my life. Some people call it an action RPG. Some people call it RPG adjacent. Some people say it has RPG elements. I have finally gotten around to playing it, and I am here to obliterate the myths and the misconceptions. Alisia Dragoon is just an action platformer. Alisia Dragoon was developed in 1992 jointly between game developer Game Arts and animation studio Gainax. At this stage, Game Arts were known for their starship shooty games like Thexter and Sylphid, and were not yet known for their RPG classics, Lunar and Grandia. Gainax were known for their hit film Royal Space Force The Wings of Honeomes, and the anime series Nadia of Blue Water. At this stage, they were not yet to drop their universe-changing hit anime series Neon Genesis Evangelion. Yes, it's that Gainax. At this stage, Gainax had only worked on a few dating sim titles. Since Game Arts had released a number of hard-hitting shooters, Gainax wanted to pair with them to release something a little bit more spicy. Gainax were responsible for character design, environment, characters, and... hang on, I need to reread this. Story. Hang on. Story. I wonder what they mean by story, because I know I didn't find any in this game. Maybe I blinked and missed it or something. Several of Gainax's employees at the time were former Studio Ghibli employees, and you can see this in some of the stage designs. The giant caterpillar worm thing at the start of Stage 3 is right out of Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind. The art of the game carried on with this Nausicaa tradition of swords and sorcery mixed with sci-fi elements. What we end up with is a very anime-esque game. Interestingly enough, it wasn't Game Arts or Gainax who released the game in the West, but Sega themselves. Sounds like they had big plans for the game, but they didn't really promote it either. Weird. They did the early 90s Sega thing by removing the anime cover art, replacing it with some Western swords and sorcery art. I know this sucks, but it was also the style of the time. That being said, this is actually some really good art. Your mileage will vary with this sort of thing, but as someone who loves classic D&D art and Conan the Barbarian type stuff, this looks really cool. Is it indicative of Alisia's actual design? No. Could it be worse? Yes. The story of Alisia Dragoon is very sparse. How anyone ever considered this game an RPG or RPG adjacent is far beyond me. I only remember something like 3 dialogue sequences in-game, and they were all very, very short. I think the NES G.I. Joe games may have more story than this game. The most story you will get out of the game is environmental. These stages are packed with personality. Interesting locales, intriguing encounters, bizarre creatures. The journey you take is the only real story worth engaging in. Bring along your imagination and Alisia Dragoon will tell you a story. The back of the North American Genesis box has lots of cliches of the time, lots of allusions to how powerful Alisia is, how strong her sidekicks are, how wicked the villains are. But this tell don't show essentially colors the story as just another Saturday morning cartoon or C-tier comic book. Take the film Red Sonja and make a video game out of it, and that box would have the exact same beats. The back cover of the European box provides a bit more clarity, but it's still ultimately just word salad. The back of the European box provides a little bit more clarity, but it's still ultimately just word salad. Apparently, the ultimate evil is going to be resurrected by Baldur, and Alisia has to stop him. Stop me if you've heard this one before. On top of this, Baldur had previously ended Alisia's father's life 13 years ago, so at least there's a little bit of a twist of revenge lemon to give the story just a little bit of flavor. Using my arch nemesis Google Lens, the back of the Japanese box is somehow the least intriguing of all. I was hoping the JP box would go gaga with how in-depth the story really is, but you get practically nothing. It basically says something along the lines of, "Get moving, girl, go fight the bad guys." Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Also of note, or lack thereof I guess, are the characters and their personalities. There are really only Alisia, Baldur, and I guess Alisia's little sidekicks. Alisia is on a revenge quest against the big bad, Baldur wants to resurrect Mr. Devilman, and the sidekicks are sidekicks. That's it, there's no exploring of themes, there's no character arcs, there's no struggle, and because this isn't an RPG, that's absolutely fine. Alisia is about as fleshed out as Joe Musashi or Ryu Hayabusa. And since this is an old action platformer, it's fine, it really is. Being an old 16-bit action romp from 1991, 1992, this is about as in-depth as you are going to get for characters. The action of Alisia Dragoon is classic run to the right and occasionally jump and occasionally shoot a guy. This is where the game shines, kinda. The game has some unique mechanics that I'm not really sure how much that I liked. The running, the jumping, the platforming is all fine, it's good, it's somewhere between decent and good, but your attack is kinda weird. Instead of swinging a sword or an axe or whatever, Alisia shoots these lightning blasts from her hands. It sounds okay, doesn't it? Lots of platformers have characters who shoot energy or shoot bullets or lasers or whatever. You've got Mega Man, Castlevania, Contra, even Mario has some pew-pew blast attacks. The trouble with Alisia is that her lightning is fucked in the head. You can't aim the lightning, it just blasts directly in front of you. But it also has this kind of homing effect that kind of locks onto enemies. You also have a power meter with levels. No, this doesn't make it an RPG. And when the meter is at full power, your lightning goes mental and blasts all around the screen, hitting everything. Kinda. I mean, this kind of attack does the job, but it also removes any challenge, which is fine. You know, sometimes you want an action game to be super easy and you just want to blast through it like a god. Feeling like a total deity for 30 minutes is cool sometimes, but to counter this super powerful attack, you are bombarded by dump truck after dump truck after dump truck of enemies. You have this obscene screen clearing standard default attack, but you also have so many enemies that only a giant screen clearing mega attack will deal with them. Why? You also have 4 separate sidekick monster guys who will help you during combat. Dragon guy, he floats around and sometimes shoots a little fireball. Fireball guy, he floats around and sometimes slams himself into enemies. Wyvern guy, I think that's a wyvern. He floats around and sometimes blasts the whole screen with light. And lastly there is Gecko guy? He floats around and sometimes throws boomerangs at enemies. I found the sidekicks to be mostly not helpful. As your main attack sort of clears out the entire screen on its own, superfluous sidekick attacks aren't really trackable at all. I really like the idea, don't get me wrong. Having a dragoon getting help from her little dragon sidekick sounds great, it's not implemented very well. I mean, there's just so much going on, like, all the time. Alisia shooting lightning, 1,000 enemies flying around shooting their lasers, your dragon sidekick shooting everywhere. Every single screen is just a mess. You basically have to run and jump and platform and shoot and just hope you don't take every single hit. But you are going to take every single hit. There's just so much happening that you cannot dodge every single little thing thrown your way. You can also level up your sidekicks as you progress, not an RPG, so they have more health and do more damage. Be careful though, because they can die and can only be resurrected if you can find a specific item to bring them back. On top of this, there are also healing items for them, so the best way to play would be to swap out your sidekick when they're about to die and then swap them back in when you find a healing item. This adds a little bit of much needed strategy to the game. The best part of the gameplay is wandering through levels to see what happens next. Sure, the combat isn't great, but these landscapes and platforming is pretty good. The locales transition between jungle, cave, and futuristic flying castle. It's nothing groundbreaking, but it's well done and well worth seeing. I'd say Alisia Dragoon would have been better off being an anime opposed to an okay action game. And you know, having Gainax at the helm doesn't make this a revelation, but it makes it a fact. The best parts of the game are the graphics, level design, character design, enemy design, world design. It just looks great. The game looks like an early Genesis game, but it looks like the very best of an early Genesis game. The game's music was composed by Meccano Associates, and other than doing some work on some other early Game Arts titles, I cannot find anything on the internet about them. Even their Sega Retro page is bare bones, and if Sega Retro has nothing on them, there is nothing on them. But the music is really good. It has lots of attention-grabbing pieces that will really pull you into the experience. The music has this classic old-school arcade action sheen of energy and dynamics, but it also has these unique Baroque moments that give it this really unique flavor that I can't really say I've heard anywhere else. Very well done. Other than being dropped on the Nintendo Switch's paid online subscription service in September 2022, Alisia Dragoon has been relegated to the Genesis ever since its debut. Holy cow, that's over 30 years with no re-releases, remasters, nothing. Just a recent port to the Switch. I can't find anything about any potential sequel, no canceled plans for an anime, nothing. Just, here's the game, goodbye forever. For a game that Sega felt needed to be published directly by themselves, Alisia Dragoon has been relegated into nothingness. And it came from a coalescence of Gainax and Game Arts, with Sega at the helm taking publishing duties. This game should have been massive, but it was nothing. It's actually really sad. I know I've come across as being kind of negative on this game, but in all seriousness, it should have at least had a sequel. Or an anime, a 2-episode OVA, never translated into English on some defunct old Japanese tape label, but nothing, just nothing. Alisia Dragoon is not very good, and it's so far from an RPG that I have no idea how people still think it's RPG related. Maybe because of the Game Arts connection, maybe it's the screenshots on the back of the box showing HP and levels. Who knows? But man, I never expected this game to be so meh. From top to bottom, Alisia Dragoon is just lacking. The story barely exists and the RPG connections are tenuous at best. But to discover that it's also a middling action platformer, it's disappointing. I lamented that it didn't get a sequel or an anime spin-off, but maybe that's for the better. The game is not great. I mean, it's not bad either, it's just kinda okay. It's fine. You will probably have a good time playing it, but it won't change your world. If Revenge of Shinobi is the gold standard for an early Genesis action platformer, Alisia Dragoon is bronze tier at highest. Maybe the game doesn't deserve a spin-off, or remaster, or OVA, or whatever. But this was the early 90s, it seems like everything got a sequel or an anime or whatever. And with Sega putting money into publishing, I am honestly shocked and a little sad that nothing came from it. I mean, this is the company who wanted to take Popful Mail and turn it into a Sonic spin-off. So to see another unique game, regardless of its quality, dropped into the shadows like Popful Mail is pretty disheartening. Alisia Dragoon wasn't great, but it shouldn't be forgotten. Well, that's another game down, only 9 million more to go. I hope you enjoyed the video more than I enjoyed the game. I hope it was clear that while I didn't love this game, I didn't hate it either. It just had a lot that didn't really vibe with me, and here in 2023, vibe checks are the only thing that my monkey brain can do to get that tasty serotonin that I need. If you are looking to deliver some tasty serotonin directly to me, like some sort of serotonin delivery person, why not leave a comment below? Did you play Alisia Dragoon back in the day, or did you play it later on? Did you like it? If you did like it, please let me know why. Not so I can judge you or anything, but so I can maybe reevaluate my own opinion on the game. While you're at it, why don't you do all that YouTube stuff that we need to survive? Please like the video. Please ring the bell to get updates on when I update. Please subscribe because I like it when numbers go up. Please join the Discord and talk about games. Please check out our Patreon. Please play some old Genesis games. There are so many good ones. Please play Alisia Dragoon. Please play Revenge of Shinobi. Please compare them like I did. That's it. See you next Monday or next Monday. For RPG Fortress, I'm Richard. See you next time, and don't forget to hug a cat. Goodbye.